Let's get more on this story, and for that we're joined by Mark Hackett. Mark's an airline captain who also has flown regional carriers like the aircraft involved in the crash. He trains new pilots on that type of aircraft as well. Mark, it's good to see you again. Sorry under these circumstances.
Yeah, thank you, Sean, for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, so let's set the scene, if you will. Why is Reagan National different than other airports near major cities? As I understand it, it's one of the busiest runways. I want to be clear, not airports, runways in the U.S.
It is, Sean, and the reason for it being designated a special airport is because there's a lot of priority airspace around the airport that we cannot transverse or go through. So because of the special nature of the White House and the federal buildings, we cannot fly over that airspace, so we have to divert around it. That means that we can only use a couple of the runways strategically to come in and out of the airport.
Okay, so have you landed there? What's it like? And if you haven't, have you talked to other pilots?
Oh, I've landed there quite a number of times. I was based out of Dulles for a number of years. It's a busy airport. It's a tight airspace, but what makes it challenging, like I said, is that restricted airspace around the airport, and that's why it's designated a special airport. Every training program in the United States with regards to airlines designates DCA as a special airport, which requires special training and special authorization.
Okay, so all this happened, and the recovery right now is unfolding in front of the eyes of Washington, D.C., the White House, the Pentagon, Congress. Is it a national security issue right now? Obviously, the safety of that airport is going to be scrutinized once again. And I say once again because I know people have indicated they'd like to see it close. It's just, it's too small to be that busy, but considering where it is and the people who fly in and out of there, legislators, congressmen, one thinks that that's just not going to happen.
I agree, and I think this happened very close to after September 11th. They were talking about closing down D.C. then. And Congress and the legislators didn't want that to happen, so they were able to keep it open. But then we had to change regulations, change airspace requirements just a little bit to keep it active and keep it safe. It is a very safe airspace, but it does require some special consideration.
Okay, I've heard the Black Hawk, the kind of helicopter involved in this, described as a gold top, meaning it transports VIPs. Who are these people, and how often does something like this happen? How often are VIPs choppered in and out of that area?
Well, you heard our Secretary of Defense earlier today talk about continuity of government. And the continuity of government is that they're able to transport these VIPs in and out of the Capitol, in and out of D.C. very efficiently, very fluidly. The Gold Top helicopters, my understanding, I'm not a military pilot, but my understanding is the Gold Top are specific. That unit is a very experienced unit. They have very experienced pilots, and they're used primarily to transport VIPs in and out of the D.C. area.
But we don't know how often that happens. It could be several times a day.
It happens daily.
Oh, okay.
Daily.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So military helicopters flying, as I understand it as well, use visual rules, meaning they depend on what they physically can see. So on a dark night, sharing the same corridor as commercial flights, it's not a stretch to think a helicopter pilot could confuse what he or she is looking at. So was this a disaster waiting to happen?
I don't think it was a disaster waiting to happen. That was, you have to understand, it's been, 15 years since we have seen a major aircraft accident in North America in the United States. And that's due to a lot of reasons, but mainly it's due to regulation and experience. We've been able to put in place things that have prevented future accidents from happening. This, I truly believe, is a one-off. I think this was just a miscalculation of sorts. But of course, it's getting the national attention that maybe we need. Maybe we need to start reevaluating D.C. and seeing where we go with that.
Okay, talk to us more about the role of air traffic controllers, because it seems like in this case, an air traffic controller was talking to the helicopter pilot less than 30 seconds before the accident.
Yes. Well, you may or may not know, but the military helicopters are usually on a different frequency than the rest of us. They operate on a frequency that air traffic control can use, but the rest of us don't hear them, and vice versa. Usually there's one specific controller that handles those aircraft. They're priority aircraft, they're priority handled, and there's another controller that usually handles us, the commercial flights. It is my understanding that there is one controller handling both. So you have to understand they're on two frequencies at the same exact time. It could get kind of confusing, but they're well versed at handling that. It happens all the time.
Still a high pressure job. I'm curious, and I don't know how much you want to delve into this. As a pilot, I'm curious about your reaction to the news conferences today, both from President Trump, what he said, and the NTSB, basically what they didn't say, that they aren't going to really talk about anything until 30 days from now.
Well, Sean, unfortunately, I've been on an NTSB investigation where I was part of a team to investigate Air Midwest 5481 back in mid-2000. And I got to tell you, the way the NTSB works is they are very scrutinetic. They are not going to jump to conclusions. They're not going to bring out any information that they do not 100% for an absolute fact know that is correct. So it takes them time. People often, correlate that with, not being good at their job, but in fact, they are very good at their job. And it takes a lot of time to put that together. As far as I understand what President Trump said today, I think emotions are very high. I personally would not have stated such that, these types of shortages, especially in the tower, could have contributed to it. But I think it does put a spotlight on it. Unfortunately, Sean, everything we do in aviation, all regulations are written in blood. And that is unfortunate, but that is how our industry works. We have gotten very safe over the years. 15 years since we've seen a major accident. The aircrafts that we fly, the pilots are very trained. It is a very safe industry, but unfortunately, it's also dangerous. What we do on a daily basis is inherently dangerous.